All right, thanks for joining us for the pressure point part of our presentation. My partner Joe here has been kind enough to let me show you demonstrating on his body, and I'm going to beat on him a little bit. Before we get started, one of the really important things that we need to cover is legality and liability of what we're about to show you. So firstly, some of this stuff can be permanently damaging and or lethal, which means that the information that we are providing to you, whatever you do with it, or should you teach it to someone else, you are personally responsible for the consequences. We are not liable for the information that we're providing. Long story short, if someone grabs your ass in a bar, don't kill him, okay? Alright, so getting started, speaking about lethal pressure points. There are two main lethal pressure points on the body. We're going to point them out and then we're going to go head down for the rest. So the first one is the temple here. It doesn't take much. It can knock somebody out in a pinch, but if you hit it correctly, they will never get up. It does not take more than just a flick, as if you're getting rid of a fly. The second one is the spinal cord, where it attaches at the back of the head. We'll cover that one in more detail a little bit. So starting from the top down, we talked about the temple. We're going to talk about the eyes. Now the eyes do not need more than about 2 pounds of pressure for someone to back off. So what I'm going to have you do at home, put your hands like this. You're going to put them on the side of your eyes and your head and just kind of push there with your thumbs. And you'll notice very quickly how uncomfortable it is. So when someone's got you in a bear hug, if you can't get them off, this is a very easy way to get it. Now what we're going to talk about that's important is you have to have both thumbs and both hands, and here's why. So if you were to just use your thumb and one hand, the head is not going to go away straight. It's just going to pivot. He's still going to keep you in his chokehold. If you were to just use your thumbs, what's the attacker going to do? He's going to back off, and you've lost your moment of surprise. So when someone's got you in a hold, what's important is that both hands are on either side, and the thumbs will go in, and when you push, go ahead. He's going to back off. Talk about the ears. So there's multiple ways to use the ears. You can box them. That will cause pressure, which will actually fuck with the nervous system, pardon my French. You can poke inside the ears if you're desperate. The other thing that you can do is grab each ear and twist them in opposite directions, and you can actually control the head in that way. Next is underneath the nose. This is called the philtrum, and right here at about a 45-degree angle, you'll notice that there's a pressure point. So go ahead and put your finger under your nose. And we'll show it's easy to actually manipulate somebody that's more heavy than you with this pressure point. Now if you're having to press too hard, that means you need to adjust your angle. It should be about 45 degrees. Walk forward, walk forward, walk forward. So if you are, for example, again, in a bear hug, maybe you are in the dark and you can't see your attacker, what you can do is make a V out of your hand, and even if you can't see what you're doing, you can get the attacker off of you. Next we're going to go behind the ears. I invite you to prod with your own fingers right at that little sharp point where your jaw meets the back, and then up underneath anywhere here. So you'll notice there's a lot of uncomfortable points there that if you need to control someone, it's very easy with just a thumb. It doesn't take much. Now for the back of the head, the spinal cord here, this is very important that you pay attention to what you're doing. So what you'll notice is that when you uppercut someone, when they roll their neck back and you feel the pinch, what's happening is you're pressing on that spot where your spinal cord meets your head. And that's why the uppercut actually knocks somebody out. So you can knock someone out with a clean shot, or you can unfortunately kill them. So you want to make sure, I know that it looks cool in movies, you're not using something like your elbow, because that is lethal. So what you want to do is just a hammer fist to the back, real quick, and that'll be enough to knock them out. And it should send them straight to the floor. Going down the front, in the throat. You want to do this one with me? You're going to hold one finger up, take your other hand, just the forefinger and the thumb, and you're going to press as hard as you possibly can, just to get a feel for how strong your fingers are. Now go to your own neck, your esophagus. Go ahead and press, and you'll notice it does not take a lot of pressure. The windpipe will actually snap without that much effort. Again, don't do that. And going down this way, right here, this is called the jugular notch. If you poke around in here, you'll notice very quickly how uncomfortable that feels. So you can use that to get somebody off you without actually even looking. So what we're going to talk about now is called the hot zone. So hopefully with the talk about situational awareness, you've prevented anyone from being this close to you in the first place. But should they be within arm's reach, what we call the hot zone, you can put your hand out to stop them. What I'm doing now is I'm keeping my middle finger off so that they cannot feel it on their body to maintain the element of surprise. And if he were to move, I didn't have to do much. So just a single finger in here will get them off of you. The clavicles act like a suspension bridge. They're what keep your arms up and moving. So if you were to take that same hammer fist to the clavicle, what it's going to do is bounce down and back up, and it will more than likely pierce the skin while it's breaking. And after you do that, the person's arm is going to be completely immobile. It won't function anymore. Right above the clavicle are these little pits. You can get your hand in here and manipulate the person as needed. Now, speaking of controlling someone with this area of the body, if you were to put your elbows here, you don't need to press hard, and you use that same hands on either side. It's very easy to move someone without a lot of effort. Down here, kidneys, the tailbone. So again, if you need to get someone like this, single motion, that will also drop them to the floor. Next, we're going to talk about the arms. Very, very simple ones. Wrist, elbow, shoulder. With the wrist, right here underneath, there's a pressure point. It does not require much to manipulate somebody. You're going to go with the joint. If you're doing the elbow, you're going to go away. And the shoulder is away. So if you grab somebody's wrist, pull the hand, pull the fingers, do the thumb right here, it's all going to do the same thing, right? Once you're there, you can then control the person. If need be, if you need to add some more, but you should be able to put that person all the way down to the ground if you are in fact flexing that wrist hard enough. The armpit is a very underutilized pressure point. So when you are watching a fight in a bar, 9 times out of 10, they're going to try and throw one of those giant haymakers. All you have to do is get underneath and punch right up in here. And that will also put them to the floor. The sternum is very, very hard. It is designed to protect your heart and lungs. It is not going to be a pressure point. You don't want to try and utilize that. You're likely just going to piss somebody off. But the ribs, however, the lower ribs are called the floating ribs. They're very easy to break. Now that may not fully stop an attacker or put them to the floor, but what it will do is cause them to go to the point of pain, and this whole side is now open for utilization. Now between the ribs, right here in your solar plexus, there is a very easy pressure point. So if someone, for example, is coming at you, it doesn't take much to stop them. And it's also a good impact point, if necessary, with the knee, which we'll demonstrate later. We'll cover the gentleman's area in a moment. Coming down from there, I'm going to talk about the knees. Now the knees are very strong from the front. It takes way too much effort to try and hit somebody that way. Now you can knock someone down that way, or you can do a stamp to the side. Now a stamp to the side is likely going to break the knee. This is good for use when you are dealing with somebody that you need to physically immobilize. So for example, if you're dealing with somebody that is high on some kind of drug and the regular techniques are not working, you need to actually put them physically down where they cannot move. Just a quick stamp to the side of the knee. We do not practice this one in class because obviously if you get it wrong, you know how it goes. Down from there, ankles, not going to do much, mostly piss somebody off. The toes, however, are a good way to make somebody move. So if somebody has got you in a bear hug from behind, try not to move much. You don't want to indicate to your attacker that you are doing anything. I'm just going to do a quick stomp to the toes. Now if I were to, if I were to move too far, he's going to move with me. He's now aware that I am trying to do something and he's going to adjust. So it's just a quick stomp in place on the toes, trying not to move the torso to indicate that anything's coming. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the groin. A couple things. Correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't take a lot of pressure. Something as simple as that same flick that we talked about with the temple will do plenty. Underneath, if necessary, will cause some damage. One of the ways that we can use this, similar to the bear hug with the stomping on the feet, if someone is behind you, you don't need to do much, but you can do a small step to the side, do your flick, oops, sorry, and you get the point. Now that we've covered the main pressure points, we're going to go through a couple of chokehold releases to help you get out of various situations. So first we're going to cover the chokehold from the front where you are not pinned up against a wall. We will cover the second variety where you are up against a wall in just a moment. So with the choke on the front, your main focus is to free your airway first and foremost, and then get the attacker off of you as quickly as possible to get away. So we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to start with our hands in retreat. This does two things. It keeps the attacker under the impression that they are in control, and it allows you to get your elbows level with theirs for the rest of the move, with them none the wiser. So we're going to start here. Just scoop down. You're going to make your hands into the shape of a scoop. You should hear that smack noise. You do not need to pull their hands very far away. You only need about an inch to free your airway so that you can do the rest of the move. You're going to hinge backwards at the hips and put your knee in their solar plexus. Now the hinge is important because it's going to give you much more force behind your knee and also balance you to keep you from falling. So it may feel weird at first. If you want to practice just hinging at home until it becomes natural, but it makes a huge difference. So the whole move together. I don't want any trouble. Next we're going to do a very common one, which is when someone grabs your wrists. It's a very simple technique to get out of. But first we're going to show what is not correct to do, which is to pull, right? So you can see that none of these work. So very simply, you're going to tilt your wrist in and your elbows out. I'll show it again. And he's actually hanging onto my wrist fairly tight. The idea is that eventually the spot between the thumb and the pointer finger must break. And it doesn't take that much effort. Now the difference with the chokehold from the front, if you're up against the wall, is you're unable to hinge backwards when lifting your knee into the solar plexus. So it's not going to function the same. See, now I'm stuck. I can't actually get to the attacker the way that I normally would. So we're going to do something slightly different. Still going to start with your hands up in retreat. You want to have your elbows the same height as their elbow. You're going to take one hand and let it fall. Now you want to use gravity to your advantage here, because what it's going to do, as you saw, Joe's getting closer to me with that impact. So it's going to do this. You're going to take your other hand behind the neck so that you have control of them, and then pull them into your knee. All right. Next we're going to do a chokehold from behind with what's called the arm bar. So a couple things that you're going to pay attention to here. The attacker might use either arm, so you want to pay attention to where the elbow is. Whatever side the elbow is on, you're going to take that hand and turn it into a catcher's mitt, right underneath. The other side, you're going to grab your wrist, right? And you want to make sure you're going to turn your head away from the elbow. So whichever side the elbow's on, you want to turn the opposite way, and we'll demonstrate why in just a moment. So you're going to push, turn. You've got both the elbow and the wrist of the attacker. Now you are in control. Do it again. If I try and go towards the elbow, I'm stuck. The attacker now knows that I'm trying to do something. They're going to adjust or go tighter. So you always want to go catcher's mitt on the elbow, head turned away, hand is on the wrist. If you can get the thumb behind, great. Voila. So now we're going to do a choke from the side. It's less likely, but it can happen. Go ahead. So again, we're going to start with our hands up in retreat. The difference this time, you want this arm inside. What you want to do is have your elbows at the same height as their elbow. So if they're taller, shorter, you want to adjust. You're going to let gravity be your friend. Chokehold broken. Now you can come up here. Let's do it quicker. So down, and you're just going to chop right here. You don't even need to take the pressure off. You want to make sure the pressure stays on. Slide your arm up, hit the carotid artery. Alright, next we're going to talk about something that a lot of women bring up in our classes, which is if you have a ponytail and someone grabs it from behind. So first we're going to demonstrate what not to do and why, and then we'll show you how easy it is to actually escape. Go ahead and reel it in. So the instinct is to grab your hair, and this is obviously not doing anything. Okay. If anything, it's just going to make them pull harder. So what you're actually going to do is pivot in place, and your pressure point is right there at the groin, ladies. We'll do it quick. Go ahead. Pivot, up, underneath, done. That's because she tried it. I mean, I can show you. Yeah. So like, she was trying to do this, right? So it wasn't working.
Well, why can't you just have your 20 and just go back like that?
Well, okay, let's give it a go. See, I'm still fumbling, right? I'm not really hitting anything.
Yeah, well, the pivot's good.
Well, no, I mean, this is, I'm actually going to leave all this in. We're still rolling, and what hopefully you can hear is that we're discussing why certain things don't work. And one of the main things that you're after is efficiency. Because again, you want to get away as quickly as possible. You want to have to be physically entangled with the person as least as possible, and you do not want your attacker to know what's coming, because then you lose that fraction of a second of surprise. So as you saw, like the different things that we were trying, I wasn't really landing. The quickest one, the pivot right into the nuts, they're going to go like this, just out of habit. They're going to let go, you turn around, you run. Last, we're going to show you a move from the ground. Now, if you're using your situational awareness and all these other techniques, you absolutely want to avoid being on the ground or having someone on top of you, but sometimes it happens, so we're going to show you how to get out of someone straddling you on your hips. Got it right there. So we'll do that again. So what you're going to do is you're going to start flat with your feet out like you saw. You're going to pull your feet in as close to your butt as possible. You're going to use that same scooping motion that we used earlier to free your neck. And this time you're going to hang onto their arms and you're going to push your hips at a 45-degree angle in either direction, and they should fly off. Now we'll show you why it must be at an angle. So that's why you need to do it at an angle, because you do not want to push your attacker further on top of you. You want to move them off. Now if you're trying to get them off and you're not able to, it may be because your feet are not close enough to your butt. So get them as close as possible. Sit nice and heavy. Sit down. Okay, and then free the airway. So it's that same scoop, right? And then throw them off.